Hi there, welcome back to the Flask Mastery series. I'm Gorret Golden, and in this session we are going to work on the database migrations for our authors API. So let's get started. So for us to be able to handle the database migrations, we are going to work with Flask Migrate, which is an extension that handles SQLAlchemy database migrations for Flask applications using Alembic. So it enables us to easily make changes to our database schema. So first things first, we are going to go ahead and install this library within our project. So I'll copy this. So before you install Flask Migrate, ensure that your virtual environment is active. I'll paste the command, then press enter so that it is being installed. So before we actually migrate our tables, it is always a good practice for you to ensure that all your models have been designed well and the syntax is the valid syntax in terms of SQLAlchemy. And for this case, on the book model, I can actually see that we have something left out in terms of the validation for this column. So the price unit must be a string, and we can work with the maximum number of characters as 50. Now, to fully confirm that Flask Migrate has been installed, I'm going to run a pip list, and it's going to actually list the dependencies that we have so far installed within our project. So we can pretty see that Flask Migrate has been installed and we are working with version 4.0. So the second step we always have to do is to create a new instance on our Flask Migrate class. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this statement, and for any extensions, we know that we are working with extensions file. So I'll copy this and paste it here, and then we shall go ahead and create a new instance of Flask Migrate. So I'll copy this, and since we are working with an application factory function, of course we are not going to be passing in the variables here, but the variables are going to be updated in our application factory function. So now I'll go ahead and initialize our migrate object within our application instance. So migrate.init app, then we pass in the app object and then our DB object. So those are the parameters that it expects as being defined within the documentation here. So having we accomplished that, we are now going to go ahead and work with a command that creates a new migration repository within our application. So I'll go ahead and paste the command here, and once the command has successfully been run, we can see that a new subfolder within our working directory is being created, where we have the versions, then alembic.ini, and all these other. Now we have to go ahead and generate an initial migration for our current version of the database schema that we are having. So I'll copy this command and paste it here. So the message is always a user defined one, so we can actually just update this to migrating users, companies, and then the books. Then we press enter. So we can see that within the terminal we are getting an output that cannot connect to my SQL server. So that means that our server is not running. So I'll go ahead and open XAMPP. Since I'm working with XAMPP for this case, I'll start it, and then I'll also go ahead and open our database for this case, and I access phpMyAdmin so that we have access to the dashboard. So we know that our database is the Flask authors DB, and you can see that currently we are not having any tables within the database. So I'm going to clear up the terminal and rerun the migration command. So apparently it's telling us that we are not having any changes within our schema. We are going to go ahead and import all our models that we are working with and register them within our application factory function. So we can see that we are making the imports according to our project package, which is the app. So from app.models, then each of the files that contains the model classes that we are working with, we import the different models. So having added that, now we can go ahead and rerun the command so that we keep track of our database schema and later on migrate the tables to the database. So we can see that our tables have been tracked, and when we check out the versions file, we can see that a new migration file has been created, migrating users, companies, and then the books. So the way we migrate the tables works in that we migrate the parent table first, and then the child tables are migrated last. So in other words, what I'm trying to mean is that with the fact that the companies and the books are related to the users, that means that we have to first of all migrate the users table and later on migrate the companies, and same applies to the books table. So the migrations are always in order depending on how the tables are related to each other. So when you try to refresh your database, you can pretty see that the first version of the migration is being tracked, and now we have to therefore go ahead and do a final migration to the database by running the Flask DB upgrade command such that it fully migrates the tables to the database. So Flask DB upgrade, then we press enter. So it tells us that migrating users, companies, and books. So I'll now go ahead and try to refresh the database, and we can now pretty see that the users table, companies, and the books table have also been migrated to the database, and you can actually check out the structure of each table to ensure that whatever we have migrated is what we expect. So we can see that we are having constraints for the email, the contact, image, password, created at, which is okay for now, and also have the primary keys set. And when I also check out the companies, we can see that the ID is the primary key, the name is unique, user ID a foreign key. I think this is okay. And lastly, when we check out the book schema or the structure of the book table, we can see that we are having the title, the pages, the price, published date, and the ISBN that is unique, and the user ID that is a foreign key. So this is all for the database migrations. Thanks for watching, and see you again in the next session where we are going to be implementing the logic that creates users.